Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up already today on Jayden Daniels, basically talking about how comfortable he is being in a position where he has to compete for a starting job. I'll get to more of that in a minute. If you are a gold member, I'm doing the private Zoom session for you Friday night. So maybe by the time you hear this, it's already over. But if you hear this beforehand, 6 o'clock Eastern time, Friday night, join me there. Bring your questions. We'll have a good time as we always do. And we'll go from there. And if you want to become a club member, go to Empire Media YouTube, the Empire Media YouTube page, see the word join, click on there, find the club level membership that you like, and then click, find it. I'm going to be doing Zoom sessions once a week. And then I'm going to be trying to I had Logan Paulson on in June after minicamp. I'm going to be trying getting somebody around once a month or so that is different from me, that you can learn more from, that maybe has certainly hopefully a few former players, et cetera. So join up there and we'll go and we'll have a lot of fun this season. Getting back to the daily training camp reports, day 3 of training camp, still in, they're not in pads yet. They won't be in pads till Monday. They're going to have Saturday off, so they'll be back Sunday. I believe that's the first day for fans to come out, so it'll add a little bit of different energy. So far, it's been kind of weird because it's only been friends or basically family who's been here. So you see a lot of the wives and kids of the players, et cetera. So anyways, you don't care about that. Let's get to the training camp report. Let's start with Jayden Daniels because he's only day 3. He talked to the media today, and of course, so he's a big topic of discussion. One of the things that I think has been very clear is they're not trying to make him the center of attention for this franchise. And I've talked about this before, talked about it in the spring. You saw it after the post-draft event at FedEx Field. He didn't go over there. In the past, they would have put that guy out there and dropped him through a parachute if they could to sell more tickets. That's not how they're using him. And, he's not the first guy out there. He's not he's not the face of everything right now. They want him to earn that naturally, and they don't want to put that burden on him. So him not going on the first day, that's why. Like, wait till the third day. And then Marcus Mariota is going to go, I believe he'll talk to us on Sunday. So they're not trying to make him separate from others or put him above a situation where he's not. Listen, we all know what the deal is here. He's going to be the quarterback at some point whenever they anoint him as a starter. And we know the potential he has to become that face of the franchise. But I really like the approach they're taking to kind of mute, not the expectations, but mute the anointing him as this face. Like, hey, he's coming here as the number 2 pick. They're treating him as one of the 9 rookies they have or draft picks they have. And he's not above or below anybody else. He's one of those guys working to get what he's here to do, which is to become the starting quarterback. Listen, we all know his role is going to be greater than a lot of others, especially if he hits. If he hits, that's massive. But they're not going to put him in a spot yet just to sell tickets. They want Jayden Daniels to become their starting quarterback and earn whatever comes from that naturally. Leadership role. Again, face of the franchise, the guy, the guy that people want to see and hear from the most, et cetera. So, but they're not going to put him there before they feel it's time. And again, it will happen naturally. Anyways, one of the things he did talk about, he was asked, like, hey, when was the last time you had to compete for the starting job? And I will stress, we know he's going to win it at some point. But right now, and I said the other day, the competition is really between he and Jayden Daniels. If he plays well, if he looks good, he's going to get the job no matter what. No matter what Marcus Mariota does. But if he's not ready, and there's a long way to go, it's not just hey, he's looked pretty good in the first 3 days of camp with no pads on. You kind of need more than that just to make sure he's ready. So I like the approach that they're taking with him. But anyway, the last time he was in this spot was 2 years ago at LSU. Kind of worked out okay. When he was in high school, was usually the starter, I think from his sophomore year on, something like that. Goes to Arizona State. Wasn't sure if they're going to make him the starter. He gets the starting job. Goes to LSU, gets the starting job. Comes here, guess what he's going to do eventually? Because he does look pretty good. And it's not like Mariota's been tearing it up. You see a lot of hiccups with him as well. And this is a new offense for everybody. I know Zach Ertz has experience in it, but that's one of the benefits for a guy like Daniels is that it's new for everybody. So there's going to be hiccups for everybody and a lot of things to learn for everybody. So, and whether it's him with the receivers or the tight ends, whatever, it's not like he's behind the pace per se, right? It's maybe easier for a veteran to get caught up to speed, but for Daniels, he's at, he was learning the offense just like at the same time everybody else was. So, but he also knows there's so much more to learn. And he has said that. And he said he likes competing. He's okay with no announcement being made. And basically it's Dan Quinn and Adam Peters' timetable, and he's fine with them. And I don't know that many guys would say differently, but you want a quarterback, to me, with that kind of mindset. Go, because the goal isn't so much, hey, am I the starter or not? That really becomes, at this point, in some ways, it's a little bit about ego, in that if it matters to you or not, because even if he was anointed the starter, you still have to go out there, more importantly, and prove it to guys like Bobby Wagner, Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, Sam Cosmi, Austin Eckler, guys who have been around a little bit. We're going to know Tyler Biadasz. Guys are going to know, like, is he here because he was a second pick, or has he earned it? And if you don't earn it to them, that's a big deal. And if you do earn it, that's a big deal. One thing that I talked to Bobby Wagner about this today, but one thing he absolutely loves is how, Daniels will go pick his brain after series, after plays, after practice. But it's not just him. He does it with a lot of people. He's talking to Zach Ertz all the time, Austin Eckler, Marcus Mariota, the coaches. He's picking the brains of people who have the information he wants to know. And that's with Wagner. He'll go ask him about why he maybe a defensive look or how he handles this or that. And that stuff adds up. And that's what's impressing a lot of those veterans. I keep telling you, it's the approach he's taking is what is winning them over. And then you see it on the field. But when you see it if you see it on the field, but you're not seeing it over here, it's going to be a problem eventually. But if you're seeing it here, they feel like it's going to translate over here consistently, because that's a thing. And I was talking to quarterbacks coach Tavita Pritchard about this too. And, I've been saying my mantra this time with all this is, reporters and media are results oriented, right? We're not oriented, but we're more results based in practice, because we see the end of a play. Is it a completion or is it not? Is it off? Is it not? What do you think happened on this play or whatever? The coaches are far more process oriented, as they should be. And I wish I could be here, but we're not watching the practice tape again. So you're getting a quick snapshot of a play. So you see the result. Like, sometimes what I'll do on these plays, if he's in there, I'm going to watch Daniels to see how he looks, how he's going through his progression, the footwork. Is he hitting his hit plant step, throwing it, how many hitches, etc. Someone else is in there. Sometimes even when he's in there, I'm going to be watching somebody else on that play to see, okay, it's Emmanuel Forbes versus McLaurin. What happens here? So you can't see everything. So you're going to see that. But when you're watching so you see a snapshot of what's going on. The coaches see the whole picture. So when they watch that, there are some times where it's like, okay, maybe the ball was completed, but you have to improve your footwork here. You have to improve this here, because if it's not consistent, that pass that was completed will not be completed consistently enough. So they're focused more on the mechanics of everything rather than just, is it a completion or is it not? That's what we see. And you always have to keep that in mind. And I try to as well. But so when I relay that, I think it's important, because if you're not understanding the process or how important that is, I think you're going to get lost in some things. And so there you go. He does look good. But I do think they want him to go through multiple situations before you get to that point where, again, is it important right now on July, whatever it is? I don't even know what it is, 26th, 27th. Is it important for them to know, like, hey, he's the guy right now? Well, maybe if there was an obvious situation, and maybe it would be fine because you're getting all those reps. But I still would go back to, you still have to earn it. You still have to prove it to those guys in the locker room. And this is one way you can do that. And Quinn's so big on competition. It'd be a little bit from his standpoint, if you're not having Daniels compete as well for something, then what's going on? So anyways, but I do find it interesting to talk to Daniel. It's like you can see there's a mindset. He's not going to give you a lot of stuff, which is fine. I think there's a maturity about him, and I think he understands his role very well. The funny part in the press conference today, Mike Samerstill um, asked a question about if he thought that LSU could have beaten Michigan. I really want to raise my hand and get him out of there because you know my allegiance, but I can't say anything right now. So I had to witness this, and I'm like, this is killing me. But but anyways, it's not about me, it's about them. And it was kind of a funny moment for Daniels. And he's like, listen, Michigan had the number 2 defense, LSU had the number 1 offense. He felt pretty good about it. That's one thing. Like that kid, that young man has a lot of confidence, and you should, and he should. But it's never comes across as cocky, but he is very confident. And I think that's always a good thing. But it's funny because we also asked Dan Quinn about it today as well, and just about, you know, things that he's seen from him. And they're obviously very pleased with his growth. And he's, as Quinn said, he's been outstanding. But there's so much more to see, and they want to follow. They want to see this process through again. They're not even in pads. Then you got to get to the joint practices. Then you get to some preseason games. Learn more about where he's at in a lot of things. The check down, you know, just are you understanding where your hots are? And even Daniels talked about that. You understand where the hots are, because if you don't, you're going to get knocked in the ear hole on an empty formation. You know, do you understand that? Do you understand, you know, how are you in the huddle? How are you in the 2-minute situation against a different defense? Because eventually you get used to what you're seeing out here, and it becomes a little bit easier. And it can skew where you're at. We've seen it happen every year. That's why I like that they're doing this joint practices against 2 different defenses. Part of that too is they only want 1-day joint practices, because that second day, there's a lot of fights. They don't want them, but you get 2 good looks against 2 different defenses, and that should help him. It should help everybody. The other I think one of the things too that again, they have that plan to stick to it. And I think last year it was somewhat, they needed to be, I think one of the things too with Quinn, with this quarterback situation, I think he does a better job staying on message with it, and they're not going to be pushed into an early decision. They were definitely pushed into that last year. I don't think that Rivera and company wanted to officially name Howell the starter for the season until after that 3rd preseason game. But after the joint practice against Baltimore, I think they felt like they had to make this decision. There was no doubt who it was going to be, but the point is, this group I don't think is going to be pushed into, even if it's 2 days or 3 days earlier. It's going to be when they want to do it. They stay on message pretty well. So one thing Daniels did do today is he threw his first pick at training camp. Mike Davis jumped a route to Davion Davis on the inside, picked it off. There you go. I think Daniels, I felt like it was a little bit sharper overall in the first 2 days in general. So there were some throws that were a little bit off. He did, sometimes it's the timing. There was a ball to Ertz. Good. If I remember right, it was like a little play fake, but he has Ertz kind of running down. I think it was like a deep out, just a little bit off, because Tariq Castro Fields comes over from the corner. Ertz is breaking open. The corner sat and then breaks inside. And I don't know that Daniel saw him, but I think that's one where you've got to get it off. Just if he was talking to Tavita, it's like one of those, Pritchard, it's like one of those balls, probably got to get off just a little bit quicker and get to that quicker, because it was there. And so that's the difference between, you know, a ball being deflected and a ball not, and a big play. And it's good that, listen, one of the things that Daniel said is like, this is what this time of the year is for. You need to see what you can do and when. And if you fail, you have to learn from it. And I think that's what he will do. So that play, I think it's a little bit about timing on that one. And the decision I felt was good. The timing was a little bit off. So the other thing with Daniels too, he doesn't get bothered by a whole lot. I think we heard a lot about, you know, don't worry about what's interesting, worry about what's important. I think over the last several years, they too often worried about both. I don't think this group worries about interesting. So far, I'll be honest, there's not a lot of interesting stuff going on here. I'm sure for you guys, you say, hey, thank goodness. But I also think, like, the starting job, it's not of importance right now, because it's day 3 of camp. Get better today, get better tomorrow, move on, move forward. that's what I think that's where, but I think they kind of live to that mantra more than we've seen. The other thing that I've heard too with Daniels, he's telling people how much he likes what he has with this coaching staff, from Tavita Pritchard to David Blah to Cliff Kingsbury. I think he likes how he's being coached. I think he likes the situation. And every time I say this, I just go back to the pre-draft nonsense that was out there and how ridiculous it was. And it more and more, through my own reporting process, but the further we get from it, the more ridiculous some of those narratives certainly were and have become. But he's in a good spot, and I think he knows it. He also showed his legs today. Well, he shows his legs every day. We can see him, but he ran today and on the zone keeper and the zone read keeper, and he had one really nice gain. In fact, he turned the left corner, and he slipped a little bit and he stumbled a little bit, but he still would have had a big play on that one, probably 15 yards or so. But you don't want him getting into a situation, if you're the defense, where you have any sort of ability to cut anywhere, because as we saw in college, he can make dudes miss. And he later had a touchdown run on his zone read keeper, a 1-yard run, fake to Robinson up the middle, takes it around the end. We know his legs are going to be a part of this offense. I like the timing on some of his reads. There were times where he's getting the ball to the back on like a third or fourth, they're just on a safety valve, whatever, but he's getting it to them in time to maybe make something after the catch. So that was good. He had a almost a perfect ball to Zacchaeus in the left side corner of the end zone. Davis was right there. I think if it's a bigger receiver, you've got a pretty good shot at that one. It was good coverage. It was a good ball, good coverage, and Zacchaeus just couldn't come down with it. I think, again, if it had been McLaurin, does he have a better shot of that? Well, yeah, he's better in those situations. And so we'll see how that develops. But I think there are a couple times where it seemed like maybe he hurried through his reads a little bit. There was one in particular where it looked like he hurried through his reads and he tried to get to like his third or fourth read, left to right, and it was Dax Milne, and he skips the ball in front of him. That was one of the few times where I've seen him more hurried. And I think, good. It's all about learning. So that's one thing you learn there. Zacchaeus did have a great catch today, by the way, but this one came from Sam Hartman in a late drill where they're working 2 minutes. Just a deep ball down the right side, perfect throw. Good, coverage was by Nick Whiteside, but Zacchaeus makes a nice catch over the shoulder. Really good throw by Hartman. One of the few times we've gotten to see Hartman get some reps during a meaningful portion in practice. It's kind of hard when you're the fourth guy in the depth chart. But they like this quarterback room. I'll be curious to see how they break it all down when it comes to the final cuts. On my 53-man going into camp, I had 2 quarterbacks on the 53. So I only had Mariota and Daniels, with Daniels, of course, being the starter. I don't know that they're going to keep 3. I think you could probably get Hartman or one of those guys on the practice squad. Listen, keep in mind that you say that, and every year I hear like, oh, if they let go, this guy's going to cut, and don't pay attention to the money that Hartman received before or after the draft, because Tyler Owens, a safety, got a similar deal. It doesn't mean they're going to keep him. It just meant they liked him as a UDFA, but it doesn't guarantee anything. And if he gets put on the practice squad, if someone else claims him, they got to put him on their 53. It's kind of hard to imagine someone puts him on their 53, but you never know. Anyways, discussion for another time. Good throw by Hartman. Really good catch by Zacchaeus. They also worked on the quarterback scramble drills today. And when they do that, they'll have like one guy. This is the first time that I remember seeing it over these practices. Saw it in the spring, but they'll have one quarterback go, and wherever they'll have the other 3 behind him, wherever the quarterback decides to go, whether he spins out and goes to the left or just drifts to the right. The other quarterbacks mirror what he's doing, and then they also throw a ball to designated receivers as well. But it just gets these guys used to working with guys in scramble drills. I saw Bryce Tremaine do a nice job with that in one of the routes today. I can't remember who he caught it from. I don't know if it was Mariota or Driscoll, I think. But I think it was Driscoll, and a good job by him coming back for the ball, but also working off the quarterback movement. They also, with the quarterbacks, they do the little competition drills where they'll run out and go through bags and then throw to designate. They have the nets, and they have three baskets in those nets, kind of from top left down to bottom right. And they'll say 1, 2, or 3, and you have to throw it in that one. You get it, then of course you got some bragging rights. They'll also put buckets at times on one side of the end zone or the other, and the quarterbacks have to throw it into the bucket. I think the only one who did that, they did both sides. The only one who got them there was Mariota. One of the guys who's really accurate is David Ball, the quarterback, the assistant quarterbacks coach, because he and Pritchard also throw on these as well, because why not? It's all competition, and they like that a lot. At the offensive line, Brandon Coleman worked second team left tackle again, Cornelius Lucas the first team. Later in practice, we saw Coleman working as the first team right tackle. I don't know what happened to Andrew Wiley. I don't think there was anything going on. He met with the media afterwards. I think he kind of just, I don't think there was anything going on. And I think, listen, see what the kid can do at right tackle as well. I've liked what I've seen from Coleman so far. I want to see what it looks like when the pads come on, see what it looks like when he's going against the starters consistently, if that's where it goes, because at some point he's going to have to work with them. Right now, a lot of what you see, especially when he's playing left tackle, is going against KJ Henry, going against Jamin Davis. Does pretty well against those guys. I also saw him working against Frankie Louvu today, where I felt like he did, in the one time I was able to watch that matchup, felt like he did a good job stopping him and then anchoring. He moves his feet well, but he also has enough strength to anchor. I think that's where that 6'4" squatty, a little bit more squatty than a left tackle or tackle would be, but that's where that helps. He has a length, he has a footwork, but I want to see him do that because he's done well against those backups. Like Jamin Davis, he had one run where he's pushing them wide and clears a path. I think, again, and I'm not trying to pick on Davis. I think there's a long way to go for him to become an effective edge rusher in those situations. One of the things you notice is that there are definitely a few plays today where I can't get into too much of exactly the detail of the play, but more fooling the eyes, because they do have sometimes where the motion's going and the receiver cuts back and you fake the throw over here and you hit the Eckler over there. And there was a big game for Eckler on a play like that. So I can't go into details on it because not allowed, but suffice to say, fooling the eyes resulted in a big play for Austin Eckler on a run. And then another one similar to that, there was a Mariota fakes Terry McLaurin's lined up wide left, takes a step back, looks like a screen, Forbes bike coming up on it, linebacker drops to a certain area to get ready for that. And Brian Robinson was on the inside. Well, he comes up at the backer and then just cuts outside. He's open. Good throw by Mariota, and Robinson dropped it. And I've sat there, we've talked about his hands a lot. He dropped this one, and it was just a bad drop because it was a good play, good throw. Everything was there, and he just dropped it. Watch Dante Fowler a little bit. Dude gets up the field pretty quick, and on one run, definitely forced the running back to take a wider path. So a good job by him. And I think I have written down, but I already talked about Coleman. Jahan Dotson, couple nice catches, also had a drop down the seam. But he had one time he's matched up against Sanders still in the slot. And one thing I've talked to you about is how he needs to get better with his hands against press coverage. Well, Sanders still is up near the line, not quite in his face. And I think when you play in the slot, you can get him off the ball a little bit, right? Well, this time, because that allows him to use his feet. And when he uses his feet, he can win. And that's what he did here, getting right at Sanders still, gets his feet, cuts inside, creates separation. Good run after the catch. Good job. Also had a ball down the seam another time that I think that was from Daniels, actually. So, by the way, speaking of Daniels, and this is one of the other things too that they want to see. And sorry, I meant to talk about this earlier. I don't mean to bounce around, but it just dawned on me that I forgot to talk about this is they're big on the checks, right? And one of the plays from today was the direct result of him on just checking to a run play that really worked. And the defense went to a fast package, their NASCAR package. So you got Fowler coming in, you got, another corner coming in, and Daniels recognizes this, they're spread out a little bit because they have 2x2, and you got Eckler in the backfield, and Daniels checks to a run to Eckler, and there was a huge run up the middle, just a huge hole, probably gets 20 some yards on that play, but it was just a good decision by Daniels. And maybe for them to think, oh, that's a natural or an easier decision, it's still a good call. And it was a good check. And it's funny because I know Wagner was talking about it later, and that he knew, he's like, he could just see what the defense was. He felt like he knew what Daniels was going to check to, and he was not on the field on the play, but he's just seeing it. It's like, and then he did it. And it was just the right call, the right check by a rookie, and it turned into be a really good play. So that's what they want to see. That's this kind of stuff when you're seeing him, that's like, when is he ready? When you see a lot of that, you know he's ready. And then kid can make plays too. So that's you're going to want someone who can make plays, period. So anyway, watch some of the D line today, just during some drills. Johnny Newton, quick. They would have the drills where you have these two big hoops on the ground, and you basically have to run around them, and you're just kind of like you're running around on as if trying to run around a tackle, get to a path to the quarterback. He looks pretty quick around those hoops. John Ridgway, slimmer. He's a slimmer dude. Balance was just okay. Kind of slipped on one. Dorrance Armstrong, he's a long strider. Fowler, good again, good quickness, good balance. And, Payne and Allen looked really good in those drills too. The second defensive line was Potue, Ridgway, Fowler, and KJ Henry. The third D line, Pollard and Mathis, and the tackles, Jalen Harris and Andre Jones at the ends. I did watch Javonte Jean-Baptiste a few times. Dude's got some length, right? So I think he's an interesting guy to keep around to develop, whether it's on the practice squad, on the roster, whatever it is. Right now, based on how these rotations are, well, he's not in the position, I think, to win that roster spot right now. We'll see what happens. But he's got the length, and you can see why they would want to. You look at him and say, there are some pass rush traits there. Can you unlock that? But there's going to be a ways to go. And that's why I think he's one of those guys you keep around to develop in however you can. I think I talked about Emmanuel Forbes. I don't remember if I talked to him earlier, but anyways, Dan Quinn said that Forbes put on 15 pounds since last year. It's hard to see that. It could, if it's all muscle, then maybe, he doesn't have the bone structure that's going to really make him kind of, look bigger. But I will say, I told you yesterday, I think he feels pretty good and confident about what he's doing on the field. And so far it's been good for him. Let's see where it goes. But he looks, I think they feel there's a freedom. He feels a freedom to go make plays on the ball. But it's, again, 15 pounds, was it that much? I don't know. But and it could just be from like a year ago at the combine, he's put on there 15 pounds. He's definitely added some strength. He told me that in the spring, and he said it again today. I think he has said it again this summer. However many pounds it was. And I would say the one receiver they felt like last year that the weight really hurt him was AJ Brown. To me, it was as much about some indecision, some technique. And I think some of it too is what this coaching staff will do well. And by the way, I'm going to have Craig Hoffman on for Saturday. So listen to that. We have a really good discussion about a lot of this stuff. But I think one of the things this coach staff does well is frees them up to make plays and play fast. And it's because on certain routes, they'll tell you not to worry about this, worry about this. And when you cut down that responsibility, it allows you to play faster. Hey, if the ball's over here, that's on me, not you. And when you have that, I think guys can play faster. So I'll be curious to see what the impact of that is on a guy like Forbes. Anyway, that's my practice report from today. I'll be back on Saturday with Craig Hoffman. There's no practice for the Commanders, but there will be a podcast. They're back at it Sunday, and I'll have another practice report from there as well, too. So I'll talk to you next time.